Good evening and welcome everyone to the 12th call in our Nourished Life call series. And I'm really, really excited about the special guests that we have on tonight. So I'll just preface this, the introduction for those who haven't been on one of these calls before. So the Nourished Life is a Facebook group that I started perhaps about 18 months ago, and I had sort of begun a journey of getting into holistic healing work, and I was meeting all these beautiful people through Isogenics who were all kinds of different holistic healers, whether they were massage therapists, bone therapists, Reiki, kinesiology, spiritual healers, naturopaths, shamans, and basically everything in between. And I was meeting all these people at events and calls and things like that. And I was like, and I wanted to keep in contact with them. And I was like, well, I'll start a Facebook group. And so I started this Facebook group, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And so now there's just a really beautiful community of people in there. And so I, as a gift to the people in that space, I started these calls. And of course, you don't have to be in the Facebook group to be a part of these calls. And of course, if you want to continue to connect with us, you're always welcome to join that group after the call. And so every week we have a different guest on, and they share with us something that they're really, really passionate about. And I love, the synchronicity, because what our guest is going to be sharing with us tonight is something that has been coming up a lot, especially over the last probably 2 or 3 weeks for me. And this is the area of forgiveness. So I will, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest tonight. So this beautiful woman, she's a Reiki master teacher. She's a transformational coach. She has her business coach, Carly, and is it Phoenix
Transformation?
Transformation, yep. She's a stepmama to a beautiful, beautiful stepson. And through this incredible work that she's done with herself, she has really, really created her dream life. And she now has built this beautiful home overlooking the ocean. And she lives in Perth. And so I have the beautiful honour of introducing you to Carly. Welcome to the call, Carly.
Thank you. What a gorgeous introduction. I'm honoured to be here.
Beautiful. So, just to get started, would you mind sharing just a little bit of a background, about your work and who you are?
Sure. So I'm a bit of a mixed bag in that I had an amazing upbringing. I come from a gorgeous, loving family. Never kind of had to wonder whether I was loved or not. I was very fortunate. Whereas the kind of people that I work with are from pretty much the complete opposite background. I kind of, in my teenage years, I found myself really pondering quite deep and meaningful questions that no one really around me seemed to have those questions themselves. So I felt like a bit of an odd one out with that, a bit of a loner, even though I wasn't a loner. I was surrounded by people. But I really had those deep, profound questions. Why are we here? I didn't believe that we just died and that was it. Those kind of questions, did my head in really. So I got into psychology and philosophy at school. Philosophy did my head in even more. You could waffle on about anything and get an A star if you waffled on enough. But I loved psychology, and psychology was like a natural progression for me, because I seemed to be the agony aunt to all my friends. And lots of people come to me with their problems. I seemed to know what the right thing to say was, and they went away feeling better. So it was just a natural thing for me to get into psychology and really figuring out what made people the way that they were, and twin studies especially fascinated me. And so I kind of went from there into being a probation officer in Brixton in London, which is probably, I think it's the third worst. I say worst because for me it was the best. It was the most challenging playground to learn about mental health, drug addiction, all the really meaty, juicy sides of life. And what really fascinated me about that was how people ended up there. What was it about them and what happened to them to make them the way that they were, to use those kind of coping strategies. So I was a probation officer for a few years in London before I moved over here. I did a bit of that in Sydney for a bit, and then worked in mental health for the last few years over here before I quit my day job and launched into my business full time, finally in April, after running it for 10 years. So I've already run it on the side, doing transformational life coaching and doing energy treatments and teaching Reiki. So I've really... my bookshelf was a mixture of serial killers on one side and energy work on the other side. But I think all of it lends a really nice package, like a holistic package, to really exploring the shadow self. You know, I'm not afraid to go there. No matter how shadow it is, I'm not afraid to go there. So it's been a really interesting journey for me.
Wow. That's an incredible story. You know, you've had such, depth of experience, which is all, beautifully brought you to where you are now, and really gives you that scope to be able to help such a vast array of people. So I think that's amazing. And I really love the topic that we're bringing forward for everyone tonight. So I'll just take a moment. I forgot to mention at the start, if you can grab a piece of paper and a pen, because Carly's going to be sharing a few things, and it'd be really great for you to jot that down. So how were you first introduced to this forgiveness work?
So when I was 21, I was lucky enough to meet a bunch of people who I consider to be my soul family. And two of them are my best friends, Paul and Siobhan, who live here in Perth now. We met in London. And back when I was first introduced to Reiki, I was about 21. Someone gave me Reiki treatment. And the stuff that she kind of pulled out from my energy field and described to me afterwards, I thought, you couldn't just know that, she was translating it from my energy. And it turned out I was carrying around a lot of baggage from a relationship that I had broken up with this person 5 years beforehand, a few years beforehand. And I thought I was completely over it. We had been together for 4 years, and I was 21 when we broke up, and he had been sleeping with a 54-year-old, which was, as you can imagine, was a massive dent to my 21-year-old ego at the time. And I was having IBS, basically. I was having digestive issues that were kind of ongoing. It was the first time in my life when I'd really had an ongoing illness, I suppose, cropping up in my physical body that didn't really, I'd put the Band-Aid on it, whatever the doctors would suggest, and it would go away for a bit, and then it would come back. And I knew that something was going on that was deeper than just the physical issue. But I hadn't really come across energy work or anything up until that point. She did a treatment on me and basically explained that I was still harboring a lot of resentment about this relationship. And I thought, no, I've let that stuff go. I don't feel like I'm holding on to that at all. But there it was in my energy field. And I met her. It was her sister, Siobhan, who described to me this forgiveness technique. And so I was learning Reiki and stuff at the same time. They were talking to me about body wisdom, and I thought, yeah, I get this stuff. This was the time in my life when I thought, I found my tribe. I found people who don't think I'm a weirdo when I'm talking about these deep and profound questions. But we would sit there, for hours talking about stuff like this. And so Siobhan had explained to me this particular technique, which I'll share with you now. It's called the Letter of Forgiveness. And at the time I thought, yeah, that makes sense. I could write him a letter, and you don't necessarily have to give it to the person, but I thought it would be a good brain dump of all the stuff that's in my head about everything that happened and everything that I felt about what happened and the way that it's affected me since. All the stuff that I couldn't say to him because he never admitted what he did. A lot of us have those kind of ends to a relationship or a friendship where we just can't resolve it with that person, or don't want to resolve it directly with that person for whatever reason. And so I kind of sat on that idea of writing this letter of forgiveness for a while. I'd literally put it away on a to-do list for probably a year, and before I really did anything with it. And in the back of my mind was, I'll get around to that one day. I'll get around to that one day. And one day I felt like I woke up and I thought, I'm ready to do it today. And I spent almost a full day writing this letter. I think I'd put it off for so long because there were 4 years worth of a relationship to put into it, and then a couple of years of, of in between. And I didn't know where to start, but I'd spoken to a friend who'd also done the same technique, and she said, you don't have to start anywhere. Just, if you have a thought, write it down. You can just write chunks, you don't have to write it all at the same time. But I just woke up one day and I thought, today's the day. And I started at the beginning, literally from when we met, and I finished at the end of where I was that day. I talked about all the good stuff, all the bad stuff, all the feeling went into it, what had happened, all the different things that had happened. He'd been unfaithful to me for a couple of years out of the 4-year relationship. So there was a lot of hurt and resentment there, and a lot of, God, I'm such an idiot for not realizing that was going on. So there was a lot of judgment and resentment towards myself as well that I had to let go, and to this other woman. So I literally wrote all of it, and there were pages and pages and pages of this. Like, once I started, I just couldn't stop. And so Siobhan said, right, now we'll do this kind of ritual. So you hold on to this letter, and we basically do this ritual in a place that is meaningful to you, a place that holds a nice space in your heart. And I thought this all sounded like complete woo-woo and stuff at the time. I really, I was really just finding my feet with all this spiritual stuff. And she was talking about it in quite a flowery way. And I was like, oh, what is this stuff? But I just went with it. And I took that particular group of friends on holiday up to Scotland, and I saved the letter for when we went there, because this was a place I used to go to with my family. And up in this lodge in Scotland was a lambing shed, and I used to go there to watch the lambs be birthed. So for me, it was a really significant place where I saw new life being brought into the world, and I had really happy memories of family trips up there. So I just kind of felt like it was the right place to do it. And she took me into the lambing shed, and we sat there and we lit candles, and it was all very hippie. And she called in my spirit guides and angels, and I was literally sitting there going, this is weird. This is all stuff I do now, by the way. But I thought, what is she on about? This is completely out there, but I'll just roll with it. I love her. She's amazing. I'll just, whatever she thinks is right, I'll go with it. But kind of rolling my eyes secretly inside, So I took the letter, and she said, you don't need to read through it again. Just hold the letter and just remember what's in it. And we set the intention for me to bring up any negative emotion or energy that was trapped in my energy field relating to all the memories that were in this letter. And there was a lot. And it was really interesting because I was really noticing what was going on around me at the time. So when we had walked into this lambing shed, the weather was really lovely, actually, for Scotland. It was August, I think. So it was blue skies. It was no wind. It was a really beautiful day. So we'd walked into the lambing shed, and that's the way that it was. And as we sat there, and I was calling up the residual emotions and stuff that was in my energy field to be released, all of a sudden it was just like this wind was hammering the building. And I thought, it was so noticeable. I thought, where is this all coming from? That's weird. Didn't really pay too much attention to it. And then we kind of took the candle, and we set the intention to release and forgive. So I'd signed off the letter with, I send you love. I'm releasing all this stuff from my life because it's no longer serving me. Thank you for the lessons. I wish you all the best. I love you. I'm sorry. Thank you. And so I kind of had that in my mind as I went to start burning the letter. And as you burn the letter, it's kind of symbolic of just really releasing those attachments that you still have, and really wanting to heal from that process. So there I was burning the letter, and it took ages to burn. And then as the letter was kind of finishing burning, all this rain just started hammering down on the building, and it was literally torrential rain, and it came and went in about 2 minutes. It was really, really weird weather. And so then we closed off the ceremony, and we thanked our spirit guides and angels for being there. And I'm still thinking, this is just so hippie. It's not my thing at all. But as we left there, we walked out of the building, and I said, wasn't there torrential rain a minute ago? Nothing was wet. Nothing was wet except for the cars and the bin bags, which I thought was quite symbolic, because your car is a vehicle for moving you forward, and your bin bags is the rubbish that you're throwing out. I was really spinning out because I was literally touching the fence and touching the grass and thinking, why is nothing else wet? It was really putting me into this weird space, thinking this is really weird. And what I noticed in my energy body was that, which I didn't equate it to being my energy body at the time, because I wasn't really, into that stuff back then. But I felt like this heartbeats. It felt like a heartbeat that was about 4 times the size of my normal heartbeat in my stomach. So my sacral chakra, I know it to be now. And it was just boom, 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 really intense, kind of so intense. I almost felt a bit nauseous with it as well. And all this kind of energy in my heart chakra, in my kind of thymus throat area. And it was like a whirlwind here and a massive heartbeat in my stomach area. And we kind of came out and we spent the rest of the day walking through the forest and just kind of playing in nature and just spending time with my gorgeous best friends. But I just felt really weird. That was really the start of my kind of healing journey with it, I suppose. I never ever got another bout of IBS again after that. So my stomach issues went completely as a result of that, and I kind of started paying a bit more attention to all these really hippie tools that my best friend was sharing with me.
Wow, what an incredible story.
I know it's a bit of a long-winded story, but it's
that's
I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. So maybe if we can just sort of go over what your sort of tips are for writing the letter of forgiveness, just to recap.
Sure.
For people. So you're going to choose someone, one person?
Yeah, so when I've written the letter, because I've done it a couple of times since then, and I've written it to a specific person, and I've guided coaching clients through this as well, and then taken them, if I'm also in the same areas, then I've taken them to their special place to do the kind of burning ceremony, and each time I've seen really powerful transformations with each client, even if they don't believe in any of this stuff. You know, they all get something really significant from it. So you write the letter to the person, and you never have to give it to that person. You never have to show it to anybody. This is for your eyes only, unless you want to share it with someone. So you can literally take every single awful thought that's in your mind about that person and write it down. Anything that you're thinking that you've ever wanted to tell to them, you know, all the things that you want to say, all the things that you want to say about what they did, about how much of a victim you feel, you know, really all the stuff that the ego is saying, all the stuff that your spiritual body is saying, everything that it's made you feel, but also how it's affected your life since. So in there I wrote, it'd been, you know, a while since I'd broken up with that person, but I wrote in there about how it had turned me into a bit of a man-hater after that point, you know, how I just didn't want to go near any guys, and how I'd been really closed off to meeting new people, and really distrusting of my own judgment. So you write in there all those things that you feel about yourself as well, for you kind of attracting that situation into your life, or, you know, I felt like a right idiot for not realizing that was going on. So I forgave myself for that. So you just write, you can start at the beginning, you can start in the middle, you can start wherever. Just write down dot points if you want to. However it's going to work for you. It doesn't have to be some really complicated letter, you know. You can, it's about doing a brain dump of all those things that we're just constantly thinking in our head that we just need to just dump onto a piece of paper. So it's out of your head. And I felt so clear, so much clearer from just that exercise, just the writing of it, just to get it out of my head. You know, when you have a conflict situation with someone, you're thinking these thoughts about all these things that if you bump into them one day, then you might say that to them, and really you never do, because you don't really have the guts when you do bump into them. You know, all those things that you dream about saying to them, just write them all down. Yeah. And then you sign it off with, I know this isn't serving me anymore. You know, like David Wood says, it's just holding on to that resentment is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. It's only hurting you in your energy field. Like that person found when she did Reiki on me for the first time. I had no idea I was still holding on to that stuff. But it was there, you know, and it was manifesting as a physical problem. So, and who knows where it would have gone to if I hadn't released that resentment. It could have got a lot worse, you know. So finish off the letter by thanking them for the lessons that they've taught to you. Forgive them for whatever it is that they've done, or whatever it is that you think they've done, because sometimes it's about perception more than action. And you just set the intention that you're releasing it from your life because it's not serving you anymore. So you can use Ho'oponopono there as well. So I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, or I forgive you. Or both, you know, please forgive me, I forgive you. And then just sign off the letter. I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best, and I send you love. I just send you love, light, and healing. And just fold the letter up, and then kind of do whatever ceremony you feel is right. So just don't hold on to the letter. Either burn it. I mean, we can't really recommend burning in Australia. If you have like a little burning bucket or something, or have a fire, then put it in there. Make sure you're burning it safely, obviously. Or you can tear it up. But I think burning is it's a symbolic way of releasing that, as the ashes disappear, those words disappear, those thoughts and feelings disappear. And just really tap into what you're experiencing in your physical and energy body while that's happening. When you're really setting a strong intention to let that stuff go. I really want to let this stuff go from my life now. It's not serving me anymore.
I think it's, I remember you saying, it took ages for the letter to burn, and I often do like a, full moon ceremony where I'll write down what I'm releasing that month, and it's always so fascinating to see how the paper burns.
Yeah.
And even if you're using the same piece, the same notepad, 1 month it might just explode and just go up in flames. There's not even really any ash, and other months it's like, you keep lighting the lighter and it's just like not.
Yeah. And it was a bit like this with this letter. I mean, it was a pretty chunky letter. It was quite a few pages long, and there was this one particular bit that just wouldn't burn. And the curious part of me just almost wanted to reread that bit and say, what is that bit that won't burn? But eventually it all went. So, yeah.
And you mentioned there the Ho'oponopono prayer. So can you just share that with people? Yeah.
So this is probably the most powerful technique that I came across. And I can't even remember how I first came across Ho'oponopono. It was years and years ago. Years and years ago. I was in a relationship that was quite abusive at the time, with a guy who had bipolar, and he was quite manipulative and verbally abusive. And so we used to argue a lot. So pretty much the only time that I would use Ho'oponopono was when we went to bed on an argument, which was most nights. And it was almost like I felt like it was like a shield for me, where, some people will put just pillows down the middle of the bed to separate them from their partner. That was like my energetic pillow, where I just have this mantra in my head. So Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian mantra for reparation, healing, and forgiveness. And it's so powerful. It's really simple, but really powerful. Dr. Joe Vitale has actually written 2 books on it. He might have written more, but one's called Zero Limits, and the sequel to it is called At Zero. And in there, he talks about how he discovered the Hawaiian mantra and who from and how. And it's an incredible journey that he talks about. It's a really long story, so I won't go into it here, but all the information is on the internet if you just Google his books. And so you just repeat the mantra, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Or you can say, I forgive you, I love you, I'm sorry, thank you. So you say, I forgive you because, for obvious reasons, you're forgiving any resentment there. You say, I love you because love is the highest vibration there is. So you're just kind of ramping up your energy field. You say, I'm sorry for your part to play in it. And you say, thank you for the lessons that I'm learning from this. So you don't need to say all of that. You just say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. So you just repeat it. It's just like an affirmation, really. And what I've found is it kind of had the same flavor to it as one of the symbols for mental emotional healing that you learn at Reiki 2, Seihei Ki. I found when I was using that symbol, it kind of had the same vibe to it. So it takes the sting out of the tail, I find. So you'll have, when there's a conflict situation, or when you're feeling really negative emotions, then you can never operate from an adult place, really, if you're making decisions from that space. When you're having an argument based on that either child or parent role, you're coming from a heightened emotional place, and it doesn't really work out well a lot of the time. So what Ho'oponopono does is it takes the edge off it. So it neutralizes those negative emotions that are there, leaving you to operate from an adult perspective again, because you're not coming from that really sensitive place. You can see it from more of an observer point of view. What I mainly used it for back then was to get to sleep when I was feeling a bit crappy and yucky. And I'd find that I'd kind of go to bed doing Ho'oponopono, and I'd wake up the next day and I'd feel really different about it. I just wouldn't, whereas if I didn't do that, I might wake up still in a really bad mood. You go to sleep in a bad mood on an argument, you have a crappy sleep, you have bad dreams, and you wake up exactly the same. You do Ho'oponopono when you go to sleep. Even if you wake up in the middle of the night, you can do it. If you know, it helps me get back to sleep if I do that. And yeah, it just, those emotions wouldn't be there anymore. So that's when I kind of first started using it. I came across it again later on, probably a couple of years ago, and that's when I really started using it in a different way. So I did a course with Denise Duffield Thomas, who trained at the same life coaching academy as me, and she runs luckybitch.com is her website. She's amazing. And in there, she was using Ho'oponopono, but for memories. So any kind of memories that you still have any kind of resentment or negative feelings around. She's like a prosperity coach. So she does it with money memories in particular. So I was doing her course and I started writing out all these money memories and was surprised at how many pages I wrote. But when you think about it, money's been around for your whole life, whereas a relationship may have only been around for a couple of years. So you wouldn't have as many memories to write down. And I already knew the power of kind of Ho'oponopono. So I got involved in that process pretty easily. And I got pretty addicted to it at the time, actually, because I could see what was happening in my life. Because it was focused on money, and it was clearing any kind of resentment or negative feeling around money. And that's including forgiving yourself for times that you recklessly spent money. You know, I got £3,500 when I was 19 for a car accident that wasn't my fault. And I was 19 and at uni and promoting in clubs. So it lasted about a year. You know, in my later years, I was thinking, I could have saved that for a deposit. That's actually quite a bit of money. So I forgave myself for things like that, you know. So you write down specific memories. And we're going to do this, actually. That's why you need a piece of paper. You write down specific memories, anything that you still hold resentment around or any kind of negative vibe around. And you write down the memory and then you do Ho'oponopono on that memory. So you think, okay, you look at that memory and you think, who do I blame for that? And you might blame yourself. You might blame another person. You might blame several people, or you could blame a vague collection of people. So if, for example, you wanted to look at, I don't know, a terrorist attack or some kind of big event that's happened globally that really you've got nothing to do with, but you want to kind of help on some level, or you've got some resentment around that, then you might forgive a group of people. So there's some topics that, you know, you might feel like you don't want to go there at first, and that's fine. Just leave those ones. Leave those ones for now. Start with smaller stuff. You know, start with, I don't know, something mean that your boss said to you yesterday, or some kind of off-the-cuff remark that someone said to you when you were dropping your kid off at school, or that road rage incident that, you know, someone cut you up on the road, for example. So just start with something small, and write that down as a memory. So has everyone got a piece of paper? Just kind of nod or shake your head. I see everyone reaching for a piece of paper, so that's good. So I want you to write down 1 to 3 things. It can be about anything, literally anything that kind of has a bit of a twinge for you at the moment, something that you just feel a bit crappy about, or really anything. Write that down as a memory. So you can just kind of put a bullet point for it. You don't have to go into detail necessarily about the event, because you'll know what it's about. usually when people start writing stuff down, they get on a bit of a roll.
That's what I was
so you
just
can literally write pages and pages. Yeah, it's hard to stop at a few. And, you know, when I was first doing this with the money memories, I saw results straight away. So I remember being in my old house, and I was doing the cleaning, and I kind of just got an urge to, okay, I'm going to clear, because I'd written pages and pages and pages of money memories. Right? You don't clear them all at the same time when you've got that many. You kind of need to give your energy field a break. But I thought, okay, I've got 5 minutes. I'll sit down and I'll clear 5 memories. And in that 5 minutes and clearing 5 memories, I had 5 people booking into my Reiki workshop that weekend. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So I was seeing instant results, basically. And you know, you can think it's all woo-woo and everything, but I was seeing so many instant results that I credit this one technique alone to being the reason why I was able to quit my job in April to do my business full time, because I dedicated from September to December last year. I thought, okay, I've been running my business for 10 years. The reason that I hadn't quit my job before was because I brought it over to Australia and needed a visa and needed residency, and my business wasn't enough, you know. But I was at a stage where I had residency and I could quit my job, but I wanted my business to be more steady than it was, you know. So I thought, I've put enough effort into my business. I want to focus from September to December purely on clearing anything that's in my way. And by that, I meant me getting out of my own way. You know, whatever is in my energy field that's there that I need to get rid of, I was 100% committed to ditching it. And the only 2 techniques I used were EFT tapping to clear limiting beliefs and forgiveness. And forgiveness was probably the biggest one that I used. And I literally was thinking, okay, what else is there to forgive? And I went through groups. So I did ex-boyfriends, then I did friends that I'd kind of fallen out with, and then I did you know, old careers and lots more money memories and whatever else was there. You know, you get to a stage where you have to rack your brains about what else there is to clear, because you find yourself clearing stuff as and when it happens, so the stuff doesn't build up. But what I noticed is that from August to September, September was the first month that I was doing this, really committed to doing this, my income tripled. And I thought, okay, that could be a fluke. And then the next month, my income stayed at that tripled rate. And then the next month, it increased even more. And the next month, it just kept increasing to the point where by the end of the year, I thought, ooh, I can actually quit my job now. And then I had to get out of my own way even more. You know, you come up with all the reasons why you shouldn't and be sensible, but but I did it. And I 100% credit this technique alone for doing that for me. Wow. When you commit to clearing your stuff, the effect it has on your energy field, it raises your frequency so much, it raises your vibration so much. When you're not carrying around all that baggage with you, you increase your manifesting capacity so much. It's just ridiculous. It really is. It's awesome and it's fun. So have you all got some memories to clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So have a look at the first memory that you wrote down and just have a think to yourself, who do I blame for that? And just right next to it, who you blame. It could be the other person if there's a person involved. It could be yourself. It could be a group of people. It could be multiple people and yourself. So just jot down the people that are involved in that. Okay, so when you've got those people or that person, then what I do, I look at the memory and I just kind of reread that line, and it does help to bring it out in your energy field. If you're kind of sitting there remembering the memory, you know, you're kind of putting yourself back in that situation. And you set the intention to bring up any and all trapped negative emotion or energy that's trapped in your energy field relating to that specific memory. So when I do that, I feel a shift. I feel kind of like movement, like it might be a knot in my solar plexus, or it might be a flutter in my kind of thymus area, or a twinge somewhere where it just kind of feels a bit cranky somewhere where that energy is coming up. And then what you do is, if you're forgiving yourself, you say, I forgive you. So you can say this out loud or in your head. I forgive you. I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. Sorry, if you're forgiving the other person, or I forgive myself. I love myself. Thank you. I'm sorry. And you can do that a few times. You can do that for all the people that are involved in it. Sometimes I just do it once. Sometimes I do it a couple of times. For me, my form of energy release is yawning. So you might get like a muscle twitch. You might feel a flutter in your chest. You might feel just some kind of movement. Sometimes I do it and there's a twinge in a random part of my body, but you just kind of feel it pinging off your body in some way. As someone who's practiced energy for a long time, I know that my thing is yawning. That's when I'm releasing energy most of the time. But sometimes it might be something else, it might be a gurgle or funny noise in your stomach or whatever. So you'll only know what it is for you when you practice this. But you'll feel a shift. And when you feel that shift, just cross that memory off, because it's then gone from the energy field. And you might, as you're writing down these memories and clearing them, you might find that you want to add to them. So there might be different layers to that same event that you've noticed. So if you've fallen out with a friend, for example, you might clear that memory and then remember the fact that, okay, well, someone else actually played a part in that as well, or actually they did this after, or I did that to them, and then you want to kind of write those memories down and clear them. So you do that for all the memories involved. Sometimes if you've got pages and pages to clear, then I get through, I don't know, a few memories or maybe half a page, and then I kind of don't really feel any shifts anymore. And that's my kind of sign to myself that, okay, I'll give that up for the night and I'll come back to it another time. When you finish that page, don't hold on to it, rip it up, burn it, whatever you need to do, but don't keep it. You're still keeping that energy otherwise, but you will feel a shift. And what's happening in your energy field by releasing this stuff is, if you imagine that every memory is like a potato and you're carrying around a big sack on your back, or you're lugging a big suitcase behind you, and every time something's happened that you've held on to energetically, or you've got a bit of resentment about, you feel self-righteous about, or angry about, or like you're right and they're wrong, you're chucking that potato into that sack and you're lugging that around with you all day long. And that creates a pretty heavy, dense energy. And that heavy, dense energy isn't the prime kind of energy for manifesting what you want. So every time you forgive one of these memories, it's like you're dumping a potato out of the sack. And the more you do of this, the lighter and lighter you feel. And the lighter and lighter you feel, the higher and higher you're vibrating. And from that higher vibrating space, you are like a manifesting magnet for what you want, So that's the prime time to write your goals down, to really talk about what you want, to talk more and more and more about what you want, because you've got less resentment energy in your energy field. You're not drinking that poison anymore. And you have a tool to be able to forgive stuff straight away. So I don't harbor resentment anymore. Stuff happens and I might feel a bit of a pang or a twinge or something, and straight away I'm in my head, I forgive you, I'm sorry, I love you, thank you. I forgive you, I'm sorry, I love you, thank you. And I release it. I just do that yawning straight away. And I know that, I'm like, haven't carried that around. That's not a potato that's going in the sack. I've dumped that sack. And the more you do it, it does become addictive, and you kind of think, oh, what else can I write a list about? And I ran out a while ago. So I'm kind of getting a bit itchy to write stuff down, but I just forgive it. I forgive and clear. What more is there to forgive? What more is there to clear? And you might also find when you're doing this emotional decluttering, because it's mental emotional decluttering is basically what it is, you might find that you get like a sudden urge to get stuck into your wardrobe and start decluttering things, or tidy up your garage, or, everyone's got a junk room at home. You might just feel a sudden urge to clear it out. I know after I've been doing a bit of forgiveness work, I definitely get that urge to get stuck into something. So, and that's just showing you that you're on the right track. As you declutter your mind, you declutter your space,
And then from that space, we can invite in whatever it is that we really are wanting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I actually use the Ho'oponopono prayer all the time. If I see something, you know, horrible on the news, if I see something, you know, just basically just anything, you know, if I see, you know, people fighting or yelling, or I can hear a domestic, or I can just anything that sort of comes into my energy field that, you know, whether I see it or hear it. I was doing corporate massage today, and one of the girls was sharing a really intensely horrible thing with me. Not that it happened to her, but something that her friend had relayed to her. And just as I was massaging her, I was just saying the mantra over and over again, for myself, but also I think for her as well. And you can feel it, like, and it's something, you know, I just invite you, or, you know, just to do it, you know, just keep playing with it as soon as you jump off this call, and you'll feel it. Like it just neutralizes whatever that energy was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I loved how you mentioned there, you know, you can, of course you can use it for yourself, but, you know, if there's other things that are going on in the world that are upsetting you, you have the ability to use this prayer so that it neutralizes it for you. And that way, you know, it's not impacting you, and obviously then that ripples out as well. And
definitely. Yeah.
So much,
because, you know, I don't know if have you heard of the Maharishi effect, where a group of people all focused on the same thing really amplifies the energy of it. So, which is a big reason why I don't watch the news, don't read the news, just don't listen to it, don't pay attention to it. And my dad would call me really ignorant, but the most important parts of what goes on in the world, you always hear about, you know, people always talk about it. So it's not that I'm choosing to be ignorant, it's that I'm choosing not to focus my energy on negative things, because nothing good will come out of that. So if I am in a space, say in a shop or something, and there is the news on, then I will just be saying Ho'oponopono, because if I'm focused on that negative news and doing the Ho'oponopono mantra, then I'm just sending good vibes to it. I'm only sending love. You know, I'm not adding to all the negative energy of people sitting there going, isn't it awful what happened in that country the other day? And, you know, people love a good gossip and a whinge, don't they? So it's not contributing to what happened in any positive way by doing that. So, and I do this with my Reiki students as well in workshops. When we're sending distant healing at Reiki too, as practice, we bring in Ho'oponopono. I go on about Ho'oponopono all the time. And the Reiki students that do implement this absolutely love it. And everyone gets about as addicted as I do. And I've been using it in all my energy treatments as well. You know, I'll be constantly repeating it as I'm working on that person's energy field. And using it in the way that Dr. Joe Vitale would use it, which is saying taking 100% responsibility for everything that shows up in your life. If it's in your life, then you play a part in it. You know, with it, however much you want to detach yourself from it or not, it's showing up in your life. So you can just send love and healing and say, whatever is showing up in this person that is also in me, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And you just clear, I find it adds a really nice touch to treatments, where it's really helping to just clear whatever is showing up for you in that person that day. It's really lovely.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'd love you know, the people who are on the call to try out the forgiveness letter and the memory clearing. Like, I'm actually really excited to jump off the call and
you'll get it.
And just I know, because once your brain starts going, you know, it's just you're looking for it, and you know, you want that to go, you want to clear it, and so just before we jump off, you know, maybe could you share you know, I suppose some of the results that you got, you mentioned before, you know, how in that 3-month period you saw in the first month your income triple, and then it remained the same, and then continually increase as you did this clearing work. Maybe you could tell people about your house as well, and if there's any other results that you'd like to share.
So we built our dream home overlooking the ocean. It's amazing. It's a dream. Like, it's my first ever home that I've bought, and I've built my dream. And it's overlooking the ocean, so I have to pinch myself constantly because I'm like, really, that's so cool, you know. And I've used other kind of effects that I've had from it, I suppose, are just being able to release any resentments as they show up in my relationships, you know, And what it does is it positively impacts the other person as well. So any kind of niggles or disagreements that could blow up if you're both tired, if you're both hungry, if you're both hangry, we call it in our house, or, you know, any kind of niggles that if you're both coming from a heightened emotional place are never going to resolve themselves well. When you take the responsibility to clear it for yourself, it also neutralizes it for the other person. So, you know, I really see that in whatever kind of, whatever happens that doesn't feel like a positive thing in your life, you know, just do, even if you're feeling a negative feeling that you can't put your finger on why you're feeling that way. But we tend to overanalyze everything as people, don't we? We just have to label it as someone did something or it's a problem because of this. Just ignore all of that and just think, okay, what am I feeling? That's really interesting. And just send Ho'oponopono to the feeling and it will neutralize the feeling. You don't have to give it any more attention than that. Just repeat Ho'oponopono if you're not feeling good. And it becomes, the more you do it, it kind of almost becomes like an autoplay in the back of your mind where, you know, you'll be in a quiet space and you'll realize that it's almost like playing like a record in the background of your mind, you know, where it is just repeating all the time. And you can't think those thoughts. It's like an affirmation. You can't think that and be thinking a negative thought at the same time. So the more you do it, the less you're thinking negatively. The more you do it, the less you're feeling negatively. It's only really got positive results.
Yeah.
So I've seen loads of amazing results from doing that in my own life, but also in the lives of the people that I get to use that as well. It's powerful stuff, and the way that you will see that is by practicing it yourself. So keep adding to that list of memories and do the forgiveness technique on it. And if you're feeling not so flash, then just repeat Ho'oponopono. It doesn't have to be towards anybody. It can just be repeating the mantra in your mind. Highly recommend that you get Dr. Joe Vitale's books. Start with Zero Limits. No, Zero Limits is his first one, yeah. And read the fascinating story of where Ho'oponopono came from. Because the background to it is that this psychologist used it in Hawaii State Forensic Hospital, which is used to be a hospital for the most criminally insane people. And this psychologist used it in this hospital, and the hospital no longer is open. So kind of, it sounds very woo-woo and out there, but seriously read the story because it was so unbelievable that Dr. Vitale kind of fobbed it off for about a year before he really went to go and meet this person and did anything with it. And then he got so into it that he talks about all the different ways that he uses it. And I really respect him as a coach and as a mentor. And he's done incredible things in his life. If he's going to jump on the Ho'oponopono bandwagon, then I'm going to be on it as well. I even heard Tony Robbins talking about it in a couple of podcasts the other day, and I'd never heard him talking about forgiveness before. So it's definitely, like you said at the start of the call, more and more people are talking about it. And really successful coaches that I've been following for a long time, I'm just starting to hear them talk about it. Whether they've been doing it for years or not, I don't know, but people are talking about it more and more now. So it's pretty cool and very simple technique. So simple we don't think it will work, but it does, trust me.
It's always the most simple techniques that work the best.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of the keep it simple, stupid methods.
Would you pop a post to the book in maybe under the video that you made or under the post in the Nourished Life group? That would be really great. Yeah, and maybe we can start a thread with our results of how we went with the letter and the Ho'oponopono. That'd be really good. I'd love to hear back any feedback, and if you've got any more questions as you're doing it, if you forget how to do it, or if you've got anything else that you want to ask, just pop it on a thread. Maybe have one thread for it in the Nourished Life group, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Beautiful. Wow. Well, that was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing those two powerful techniques, and going to upload this to the group immediately because I know a bunch of people who wanted to be on here tonight, and they will absolutely love the recording. So just really, I want to honour you and just show you lots of love and gratitude for sharing yourself with us tonight, and just want to acknowledge everyone who did decide to get on and share the space with us tonight. So sending you all lots of love and have a beautiful evening.
Happy manifesting, guys. Bye.